Tell me a little bit about the founding story. What did you see the market was missing where you were like, all right, I'm going to start this business?
In the handyman space, I feel like we have two extremes. We have Mr. Handyman and Ace Handyman, the big nationwide franchises. It feels like there's a huge gap, in the plumbing, electrical, HVAC business. They've got it figured out, right?
How are people hearing and finding out about you? Because you're a relatively new business.
So I kind of started out building the brand before I ever did any work, and set up a CRM, which I'm very, very grateful I did before I ever did any work.
What'd you do? Did you get out there and network? Did you ask for suggestions? How did you find out to do this?
So it was Facebook networking. I'm in multiple handyman groups, and I had heard about this company. They explained to me right away that one of the things we were doing wrong was we were posting way too much of the blogs. So quality content, that's something I learned there, right? It's not about volume, it's about quality.
All right. Welcome to another edition of the Superpro podcast. I'm Roland Knightenberg. I'm also the co-founder of House Call Pro. Since 2013, we've been on a mission to champion the trades and champion our pros to success, because the work you do keeps our homes safe, comfortable, and communities running. I've also had the pleasure of supporting hundreds of thousands of pros just like you, empowering you all to achieve more, stress less, and redefine success in our industry. I'm super excited today. We have a special guest. This is Kyle Cliffton. He's the owner and founder of Fixie Handyman. It's a dedicated handyman business based out of Katy, Texas, just half an hour outside of downtown Houston. Kyle's on track to hit big profit this year with a revenue goal of $650K. He's got 4 employees, 2 trucks on the road. He's got multiple subs, and he's laser focused on getting out of the van and purely into the COC. A lot of times we talk about working on the business, not in the business. Kyle, welcome to the show. I'm excited to have you on today.
Thanks, Roland. It's an honor to be here. Thanks for having me.
No, I'm super glad you're here. Tell me a little bit about the founding story. What did you see the market was missing where you were like, all right, I'm going to start this business?
Yeah, so it was, in the handyman space, I feel like we have two extremes. We have Mr. Handyman and Ace Handyman, the big nationwide franchises, and then we have the Chucks in a truck. But in between there, it feels like there's a huge gap, in the plumbing, electrical, HVAC business. They've got it figured out, right? Like those big companies are a dime a dozen. They grow them, scale them, they're successful. But in the handyman space, the number of multi-million-dollar handyman businesses in America, I think, are very, very few and far between. So I just felt like there was a big gap in the market there.
Yep. And I think, as a homeowner, a lot of people are like, oh, I can't get anything done. You'll see the big franchise names pop up because they can spend a lot of money and they charge a lot of money for simple fixes. But those are often kind of last resort phone calls versus, maybe they go online, they go into their next door, and sometimes they'll meet the truck in the truck. How are people hearing and finding out about you? Because you're a relatively new business. So you're building out just a brand name fairly quickly, just the last couple of years. What do you think is pulling people to your business? How are they finding out about you? What are you doing?
Yeah, so I set out one of the things I did different was I very, very intentional about creating a brand and creating a business like this. And so I started off right off the bat before I ever did any work. I bought the van. I had it fully wrapped. I hired a VA to do design work for me and set up the website, SEO, social media, all the things I knew I wasn't good at. And so I kind of started out building the brand before I ever did any work, and set up a CRM, which I'm very, very grateful I did before I ever did any work. So we've been working on SEO for over a year and a half now, and that's a major payoff. I mean, we're ranked number 5 on first page of Google now. One of those is Yelp, so there's actually only 3 handyman companies above us, and 2 of those are Ace and Mr. Handyman. So that's bringing us in, leads every single day. And so that's a big part of it. One of the other things I did.
How are you doing that, Kyle? Hold on. Because a lot of people say do the SEO, but what does that mean? Because I feel like it's very easy to be sold SEO, and people say, oh, it takes forever to work, and you got to wait, you got to have patience. And other people are like, no, if you do these things, this is how it works. Where do you fall within the camp? How are you doing it? What does it mean to do the SEO? Because I think There's a lot of young business owners that are just dying to figure out what you're doing.
Well, I started out, had my VA doing it. So he built the website from scratch. He did the SEO on page and off page, the backlinks, all the things that needed to be done, all the blog posts on the website. But after about 11 months, I didn't feel like we were gaining any more ground. We were still on second page of Google. We were getting a lot of phone calls, but not much website traffic. He had a little different way he was doing it. He was targeting different keywords instead of trying to rank us higher on the first page of Google. And so we actually switched just a few months ago and went with a local company that specializes in SEO just for handyman businesses. And, it was an awesome move for us. It cost us less than I was paying the VA. And in just two and a half months time, we've got on to, like I said, first page, number 5, and we're getting leads every single day through our website. So
yeah, I think it's important because one golden nugget you said there without even kind of suggesting it was one is that if the right people are doing it that specialize in what they're doing, you're going to start to see results. So if anyone's telling you, it's going to take, a year or two to kind of build it up the traffic and no, because Kyle, your business is relatively brand new business, still new, a couple years old, and you're able to get here. And that was just in a couple months. And I think sometimes, you'll be told, he's got to wait, be patient, but you can start to see, and you're not too far away from just a major metro area, where it's highly, highly competitive. So don't think that, Kyle's in some small town in Nowheresville. You're in a very competitive area and you're able to get there.
Very, very, yes. And
how did you find this company? Like, how'd you go about it? What was your thought? Where you're like, all right, this isn't working as much. We're still here. What'd you do? Did you get out there and network? Did you ask for suggestions? Like, how did you find out to do this?
So it was Facebook networking. I'm in multiple handyman groups, and I'd heard about this company. Of course, like I said, they specialize. It's handyman marketing pros, so it's for handyman. And like I said, I was dissatisfied with what we were doing, and so I just reached out to them and said, "Hey, take a look at this." And they explained to me right away that one of the things we were doing wrong was we were posting way too much about the blogs. Like he was overloading. We had like 55 pages of blogs, and a lot of it was AI generated. And so it was actually hurting our ranking. So quality content, that's something I learned there, right? It's not about volume. It's about quality. We already had the Google reviews. We've got over 100 5-star reviews. So we're doing great with our local Google business page, and all that's going great. We already kind of had the foundation. We just needed a cleaner, better website, and then the quality content once a month instead of overloading it. That was
who's creating the quality content? Are they doing that on behalf? Are you helping them out? Like, what does that mean when someone tells me quality content? It's like, okay, I thought this AI stuff looks like pretty good quality, but what do you mean, or what did they mean when they said quality content?
So they told me that Google wants authentic, real, local content, which means I have to provide them with actual jobs that we've completed and pictures of those jobs and a description of them. And then they'll write the blog, they'll do the stuff with the info I give them, but it's not generic. Nobody else can repeat it. Nobody else can do it because it's mine. It's from actual work that we're doing. So it's authentic, local, real content, which is what Google's looking for.
Yeah, and I think one of those pieces is local, which is as you're writing content or as you're having content written for you, people are booking a local service business. So what are things that are unique in your area? What are things that maybe there's like a developer in your area that did certain things when they were building the home. So they all have that same problem. Or, what are some things that that maybe others don't, that, an AI bot can't just go synthesize from everywhere on the web because it's going to turn out very, very generic. Yeah. I feel like that's often overlooked, but it sounds like, you've kind of figured out some of the recipe there and you're going to continue to build. It's only 2 months in. So you're only going to see upside from there.
Yep, absolutely.
What about hiring good people, Kyle? Where are you finding good people?
Hmm.
Obviously, you work with subs, you've got some employees. You want people to maintain this like strong, good brand. You've got amazing Google reviews on your GBP, your Google Business Profile page. How are you doing that? How are you maintaining that high bar of excellence?
That's a tough one for me because I'm in the middle of the mud right now with that. I'm still working in the field. I'm the lead tech every single day. So I've got a full time assistant that's a great assistant for me. He's one of those guys that can think ahead and know what I need before I need it, but he's never going to be more than that because he doesn't speak English. And I've got another part time guy that does well with drywall and painting and trim work, but he's not so great with electrical and plumbing or other more finesse type stuff. So I'm still having to do all that. I can't hardly answer that. I'm still in the middle of that, trying to figure it out myself. I
Yeah,
just got off the phone with my coach today, and I think we're going to try running Facebook ads for hiring with a $2,000 sign-on bonus. That's something I hadn't thought of yet to try. And I've had better luck with Facebook ads because I feel like they reach everybody, even the guys that have a job that might be interested in something different, but they're not on Indeed because they're not out of work. So
yep.
I definitely like Facebook for hiring ads.
Yeah, and I think the moral of the story too is like everything's just a work in progress, and no one's got it completely figured out yet, and that's okay. But if you can find great people that specialize just in areas that can make it so that you don't have to do it yourself, so you can continue to focus on other things, you're just going to continue to build that scaffolding, and you're going to have a guy or gal that does this for you, a guy or gal that does this for you, and over time, people are still going to come to you for your services because you're able to be the air traffic controller and figure out how to put a project together and all the pieces. So that's okay. You don't have to find a replacement for you right away out in the field. And you can get and scale really quickly as you have done your business. Just the way that you have, just in a couple of years, is very impressive. Tell me a little bit about the strategies you use to get your Google reviews. What are you saying? Anything in particular? Obviously, you're using House Call Pro to kind of do the review asking, but is there anything else you're doing to kind of like grease the skids? Like, what are you doing to grow this fast?
Well, we don't have that down to a science yet. Once I have more full time ticks, I've definitely learned from other people that asking for the review in person is the most powerful way of doing it, and trying to get them to take a picture with you while they're doing it and mention you by name. All those things are important, right? But we've relied heavily so far on House Call Pro's automated text. We're often overbooked and super hurry, and we just don't have the time to do that. And so we rely on that automated text. And then I've also added follow up requests just in case they don't leave the first one. So that's helped too. But really, we could do better. I definitely know we could do better. I'd like to have 200 by now instead of 100. So.
Well, I think everybody wishes they could have double the amount of reviews they have, but I think it's a constant. I think it's a constant work in progress there as well because it sounds like you've got the good fundamentals down, and now is trying to figure out what can you do to increase that conversion rate of getting people to leave that. And sometimes it's as simple as just pre-writing a review for them and asking them to put it in their own words. Sometimes people get stuck with, I don't know what to say. You can really quickly go back to your private notes, public notes, whatever it is, and drop that thing into a chat GPT and say, hey, if I were the homeowner, write me a review for them. And you could send that to them as well. And if you have a VA or you've got someone in the office and you've got some things, time to spare, have them send some out and just tell homeowners, hey, put it in your own words. Have them personalize it to a location potentially, like, hey, I'm in this community or I'm in this city or I'm in this neighborhood. And Kyle, or have a name of a tech. So it's a little more personalized. So it's passes some of the spam AI detector stuff in case homeowners don't change it at all. But I would say just in general, help people with it because, people might want to leave a review. They just might not be the best writers. So just unstick them a little bit. I like it.
That's a great idea.
Yeah, yeah. What prompted you to get a coach? There must have been something that you were thinking where it's like, okay, I've reached like maybe this state. What caused you to go look for a coach? What made you think it was kind of a good idea, and why might it be good ideas for others to do as well?
Well, it's always been my goal to create, as I said in the beginning, kind of I call it a legit business, a big business, a scalable business, multiple locations. Um, so I never wanted just to create another job for myself. I've done that too much in the past.
Mhm.
So I joined a mastermind for about a year before I started this business, and that's where I learned so much stuff. That's why I wrapped the van that I did. That's why I got House Call Pro before I ever started doing work. Like I learned so much. I joined the BNI networking group, which, by the way, brought me 160K in revenue my first year in the group. So just
Nice.
things like that I learned through that mastermind, and so I will always tell people one of the most important things you'll ever do in business is develop your mindset. There's nothing like I see all the time in handyman groups, people trying to get to 100 or 200 a day while I'm trying to get to 2,000 or 3,000 a day. It's what's the difference? It's the mindset. It's what we're,
Hmm.
and other people would say, well, I'm trying for 10,000 or 20,000, right? It's just level up, level up, level up. So yeah, for me, a coach is a no brainer because, I know where I want to go. I just don't have the exact roadmap, but just a little help here and there with pricing, with structure, with the way we do estimates and sales and hiring. And like, there's so many, people that have been there ahead of you that can give the feedback and direction and just help me get there quicker. That's all I'm after.
Yeah, and I think also there's another aspect which is sometimes accountability. So you can tell yourself goals, but once you tell someone else your goals and you're paying them, they're gonna be like, "Hey, Kyle, why didn't you hit your goal today?" And it makes you self-reflect a little bit and go like, "Oh, okay, I didn't hit it because I should have delegated this, or maybe I should have gone over here to get this extra job from X, Y, Z, whatever it happens to be." But I think a lot of that creates that kind of introspection or at least a retrospection that helps you just improve. And I love the
Absolutely.
way that you put it, where some people are like, "Oh, my goal is 100 to 200 a day," but the mindset is simply, "Okay, no, this is my goal. I want to achieve it. Here's this number. Put it out there." Because you can get it, but if you have a kind of a fixed mindset or you limit yourself to what you think your potential is, it's going to be really hard to overcome that. Versus
Mm.
you set a big lofty goal that you realize you may or may not hit, but you think it's possible. Your mind will do clever things to kind of convince itself that it's real, and you're actually will go hit it. You're still a relatively young business, but what would you do if you were kind of like looking back? What's maybe a House Call Pro feature you wish you would have started using right out of the gate? Even though you started using House Call Pro right out of the gate, which I say is probably not typical for most business owners. Most business owners have to hit some sort of pain before they go find what House Call Pro has to offer. But like, if you were to go back, just a couple of years, what would you force yourself to do? What kind of either feature or add on? What about House Call Pro? You're like, I should have used this from the get go.
Definitely job tagging. That's one of my huge regrets is I've known it's there all along. I just didn't know how to use it. And so
Hmm.
now we're a year and a half in, and I wish I would have had the proper job tagging all along so that I could pull better reports and get better data. But now I'm, having
Yeah.
to start from where I'm at.
Okay, I think this is a common struggle. I don't think you're alone. I think because job tags can be so powerful because they're so flexible, sometimes it's hard to build a system to figure out where to start. So
Mm.
what are you doing right now in terms of job tagging? Like, what are you thinking about when you're looking at a job and like, all right, I gotta add some job tags or job fields?
Well, it's like hiring. We're still learning. We're still working that through that. In fact, I just last week I told my admin assistant to schedule some time with House Call Pro training to get better at it because I recognize that it's beyond me. I don't have the time to really learn it and figure it out. But we do simple stuff. We do recurring customer tags and the different types of jobs and the callback jobs and we do some real simple basic stuff, but I know from what I've seen on the Facebook pages from other people that there's way, way more we could be doing.
Yeah, and you see that often too, where people are like, "Oh, I can't get the data I need. I can't get the reports I need." But remember, in order to get good data out, you got to have good data in, and all the fields are there. but you have to use them. So that way
Hmm.
computers know what to do because they're not going to be able to, guess right out of the bat. I'd say for those that are listening, they're like, okay, what kind of tags should think about using? There's kind of, I categorize them in a couple different buckets, but there's, these work scope and task tags. So this might be you tag jobs based upon like service categories. So for example, maintenance, repair, install, inspect. Or sometimes there's like assets or systems that you install, right? So you'll be like, this is my HVAC, my plumbing, my electrical. If you're doing special projects, if you want to, tackle maybe handyman, you're doing a bunch of TI, so tenant improvement stuff potentially, right? Or property management work, right? Or maybe a turnover, right? When one rental needs to get flipped to be completely done up, ready for the next one. A lot of times, too, people I see them using priority and logistics tags. So, if they have a little bit bigger teams, they might have urgency style tags where it's like emergency, same day, after hours. If they're busy and it's a summer, maybe like wait list, or if they're the VIP customers or their service plan customers. So, logistics could be you need two techs or you need a lift or you need a particular piece of equipment, depending on the trade that you're at to be able to complete. You need a stump grinder, you need something. So there's like so many different ways to use tags. But think about things that you find yourself asking often, like how many of these installs am I doing this month? Or like, how many repairs am I doing versus new installations? Or electrical versus plumbing? If you're a handyman, maybe you're skewing more to, I don't know, smart home installation and like theater and drywall and like, hanging TVs. Maybe you're skew that direction. Maybe you have a sense of it, but if you really want to track it, if you've got a question, turn that into a tag. Tell me a little bit about some of the other House Call Pro features that you think have added a lot of value to your business. If there was one maybe that I were to, magically take away, what would you be most upset about?
Well, that's hard. We love so many things about House Call Pro that it's hard to answer that. But one of the things that I was looking for very particularly was on my way text. To me, I felt like that was something that was going to really set the tone, the standard for my company, the professionalism, the communication that I wanted for my customers. I had seen it from an HVAC company and with a picture of the tech. And I just thought, that is definitely something that I want before I got my first CRM, House Call Pro. So that's definitely a big one for me. Obviously I couldn't use it at all if I couldn't do estimates and invoicing and collect payment because that's stuff we do all day, every day. Right. So,
right.
But on my way text, that's a big one for me.
Yeah, and I think it's one of those underrated features. Sometimes I position the question that way too, but like what's an underrated feature? Because a lot of people, it's almost like a given at this point that it does it.
Mm-hmm.
But the reality is like that's the first like real good tech forward touch point a customer has with you. Because you're not used to getting that, at least in the home services space, it's still not super common. So when you get that, you can see a picture of the technician, let them know they're on the way. If you use our GPS and dash cam integration, you'll actually see a picture of the truck. So you can click the link and you can see the truck coming to your home. And I think that experience kind of encapsulates why you can charge and command a better price than the chucks in a truck, that you kind of mentioned. You're trying to differentiate. Somewhere in the middle, there's this like, you don't want to use a franchise handyman thing, and you don't want to use just some rando, that I got selected from, I don't know wherever you find them, Craigslist, whatever. But a reputable handyman company, you're going to pay more than the chuck in a truck, but why? And I think with that thing, when you show up and you provide an estimate, I think in the consumer's mind already, they're like, wow, they're on it. I get a scheduling text, I get the on my way text. Okay, I'm paying for more of a premium service. Probably helps you close more of those estimates for sure. And I don't think enough people kind of tie those two things together, but it definitely helps. It definitely helps.
Absolutely.
What are you looking forward to? This next year, you got big revenue goals. What do you think is really going to get you to that next stage? And maybe what's one practical or tactical thing you're going to either change or add to what you're doing that's going to help you get there?
Of course, We already talked about hiring. That's a huge one for me.
Mm-hmm.
That's my number one stumbling block right now. And again, we talked about mindset, but one of the things that I'm having to really work on is to quit thinking of myself as a handyman and start thinking of myself as a team builder, because that's what I need to be now. That's what I am now. And so that's a big shift for me. I've been doing the handyman stuff for so long that to get away from that and move to the hiring, the training, the retention side of it, that's going to be big. And I feel like I'm in my own way. Like I'm in the way of the company. We can't continue to grow at this pace until I am out of the way, because we've maxed out. I'm working 90-hour weeks to make all this happen, and I can't do any more. So I'm the one that's in the way. I've got to get myself out of the way and get some key people that can take some of that responsibility in the field. That's the huge one for me.
Yeah, and I think that's always a struggle. It's really the second you get off the field, you have to be okay with knowing that someone might not care as much as you do about the business, but realize that the 80% of care that they might have for your business is better than your 100%, because now you can work on other parts of the business. And I think that's like the first mindset. I always feel just like the trickiest to kind of overcome. Obviously, you can find someone that might be even more incentivized. Or if you do find key people, how do you think about equity in your business potentially to keep them on board and tied with that? Because then you're not the only one shouldering all that burden, all that weight. It's definitely a tough, I don't know, like nut to crack. But I think, as you're thinking about, hiring and bringing new people on board, work on your culture, gamify the workday. Don't just make it about sales. In the first 30 days when they start, how can you create some sort of like streak for them to go do something? How do you teach them new things every Friday? How do you do like reverse ride-alongs where you're not the one that's leading it and they're coming along, they're leading it and you're kind of coming along and you're going to be their helper. And there's just like all kinds of different fun things that you can do, and a lot of enjoyment that come from that. What does it mean to you, Kyle, to be a part of, just a community, House Call Pro community, Superpro? Tell me a little bit about that and why other pros should either think about joining or use that asset more.
For me, it's an extremely valuable asset. Not having a lot of time, I don't get the value out of it that I would like to. But I see it almost every day. I'm on there, and I learn so much just from other people sharing their current problem or struggle, and then read the comments from the people that have been there, done that can give advice. And I rarely have to post my own issue because somebody else has already been there, done that, and the answers are there. So it's huge for me. I love the Superpro community and the House Call Pro community. So much value there. In fact, I'll give one last little tidbit about that. When I did the van wrap in the beginning, I had it designed and I actually posted it in the House Call Pro Facebook group and got a bunch of feedback, which led to the current design, which is much, much better than the first one we started with. Feedback like, oh, it's too busy. All you need is your name and your logo and maybe the website. You don't need all this other information. There's too much. And even the mascot we changed. We had kind of a manly looking mascot, and people said, you're mostly working for women. You need something friendly and fun. And so we changed the mascot. So all that was from House Call Pro before I ever even started doing any work.
Oh, I love that as an example of, leveraging the community to get extra feedback, to just get an extra set of eyes. Because I think sometimes you're so like in your own world and it's like your mascot, your logo, all the things, but really just getting external feedback on it kind of goes, oh yeah, that's a good point. I didn't think of that, or I didn't think about that. And so it's sort of like this, I don't know the right word, but like hive mind effect, where you can get just a whole bunch of extra eyes on something rather than your own. It's really neat.
Absolutely.
So we've got something fun launching here pretty soon, a House Call Pro. and you sub out work, you've got employees, Spanish speaking. You mentioned earlier on in the podcast here, one of your helpers, really can't read English, speak English really well. Tell us about what you think the Spanish version of our app is going to do for Manuel, or how you're thinking about that.
Yeah, I'm super excited about that. One of the biggest, of course, having him be on the schedule and be able to see the address and go directly to the job is a plus. But for me, the biggest part is job costing, him being able to clock in and out of the jobs so that we're not having to manually enter Manuel's time for every job every day in order to get our job costing accurate. That's huge. I've been anxiously waiting for that to come out just for that reason alone.
That's awesome. Yeah, and anytime, you can just empower your employees to be a little more autonomous, to help out with some of these, you'd say almost like office level tasks, because now they can, that's going to save you time that you can now go do, invest somewhere else in the business, versus having to check that off in the 90 hours, that you're putting in each week. Last question here, because I know we're running out of time, and I got to get you out of here real quick. One piece of advice you'd either give to your younger self or anybody else for that matter here, so we can round out the podcast.
Well, definitely the piece of advice that I would give to myself to start this again would be to figure out the hiring piece quicker instead of trying to do it on my own for a while and then figure out the hiring later. Because definitely for what I'm trying to accomplish, I'd have been better off to hire those key people right away instead of waiting a year and a half in until I'm overwhelmed. So that's a big one for me, that and the mindset piece that I already mentioned.
That's great advice, and I think hiring is one of the hardest things. So the sooner you start, the better. Things that make you uncomfortable is a good indicator of that's where growth lies. So lead into it, because I think it'll help you kind of get to that next level sooner than you may think. For everybody that's listening, thank you so much, Kyle, for joining the podcast, giving us so many good golden nuggets. This is great. If you guys want to find Kyle online, you can obviously find them inside the community, or you can go to fixinow.com, go take a look at his webpage, look at some of the SEO stuff he's been doing. It's a great page. You can follow him. Also, if you happen to be listening, you like House Call Pro, or you're thinking about getting a field service management platform or CRM, however you may call it, you can always go to housecallpro.com/podcast deal if you want to get a deal on it. You can always text me too, 858-215-1512, and I'll get you a demo. Once again, thank you for listening, and we're excited to have you come back next week for another great interview. Thanks again, Kyle. Appreciate you coming on.
You bet.
The Superpro podcast is brought to you by House Call Pro, the leading platform for the home service industry. House Call Pro streamlines your workflows and simplifies everything from scheduling and dispatching to communication and billing. Unlock the full potential of your home service business with House Call Pro. Work smarter and more efficiently with streamlined workflows and detailed analytics. Win more business and serve your customers well, every single time. Join more than 40,000 home service pros who have already revolutionized their businesses. Work smarter with streamlined workflows, get organized with centralized information, and scale your business your way. Learn more at housecallpro.com.